Hey guys, what is up? It's Andrew from the Destiny Council, and I'm here with a deck. It's pretty fiery. It's got Hera, Maz, and Ezra. Hera's elite, Maz is elite, and Ezra's chilling there with the 1 die. This deck has been a ton of fun for me in the past, like 2 or 3 months now. Since Empire Wars dropped, it's been awesome. It's been the most fun I've had in the game since Han-Rei, which has been one of my favorite decks ever. So if that tells you anything, it's pretty sweet. So why should you play it? What's kind of it's got going for you? Well, one, it's cool. Two, it's unique. It really shakes up the way you play the game. Instead of throwing down upgrades, just trying to maximize sticks and range damage, you really have to think a lot more and really put more into how you're playing the game than just maximizing damage output and minimizing damage intake. So for those reasons, I'd really recommend it if you want to change up your playstyle and look at the game in a different way. Just try something new and different. So with that said, let's get started and talk about the characters, talk about why I'm not running Rookie Pilot, and all sorts of other things. First off, you'll notice that I'm playing on Weapons Factory Alpha. This is great for just starting your ramp core, playing a vehicle out turn 1, just getting really started into your game plan, which is to swarm the board with ships and ultimately blast your opponent from the sky. Let's move these cards up to the top corner and get started with some of the ways that you can do that and jump into the heart of the deck. So, first off, we have the ramp core. This is the way that you break the cost curve of the game and really push this deck into the upper tiers of the game. So first off, you have Chance Cube, which is a really insane card, especially if you have focus. People haven't talked about it too much. They've talked about it in Thronkar and other mill decks, Jabaduku, etc. What they haven't talked about it is Hero. There are not very many Hero decks that play this, but it's perfect for Maz. It's the only card in the game that nets you 2 resources the first turn you play it, and it's simply amazing as far as accelerating your ramp curve, getting tons of expensive ships onto the board, and really giving you a good edge on your opponent in terms of resource economy and the way you're playing the game. Next up is Recycle. Now, Recycle is another card that works extremely well. It hasn't been seen much play in Hera vehicle decks, and I think one of the reasons why is this. Initially, people were targeting Hera when you play a deck like this, and so you couldn't really rely on getting a ship out there to recycle it. But as the meta has shifted and people have grown more understanding of the deck, they've shifted to targeting Maz. And this really gives Recycle an open window to come into the deck and the game as far as just an insane ramp curve and really puts you up on your opponents. It gives you insane options comboed with some of the high cost ships in the game and really accelerates the ramp turn 1 and just helps you put your foot in the door against other competing aggro decks. The final ramp card that really helps break the cost curve of the game is Rallied. This is the only card other than Chance Cube that can give you 2 resources in a turn, net value. The first turn you play it'll give you net 1, which is also insanely good, and overall it's been really helpful. People look at the downside of this card as like, hey, you're picking a card at random, like how do you know it's going to be good? If you're playing around your hand, this card simply is good. It has the ability to play out a black 1 for 2, and while people may complain about like black 1 for instance, at 2 cost, the black 1 is a steal. Similarly, U-Wing for 3, Falcon for 3, playing a T-47 Airspeeder for free, or a Y-Wing for 1. This card is also one of the strangest cards in the game in that it effectively works as an It Binds All Things for any card. And that's something you don't see often. That said, this is a 2-of in the deck. All these are 2-ofs, and I highly recommend them if you want to push your ramp game to the next level with this deck. Let's see, let's look at some ships that these resource economy cards are looking to push and are really the cards that you want on the board. First up is the Y-Wing. This slots in at a 2-of. This is the best card in the deck, bar none. It's simply so good at pushing damage. It is everything that you want. A lot of people look at that special side and are like, what am I doing here? What's going on? But effectively, early turns, people are spending all the resources, so this ship has a 2 4 indirect side, which is insane. People have been freaking out about Resistance Bomber upcoming in the new set with 3 indirect, 6 indirect for 2. This card says 244, which is similarly insane and should be similarly hyped. Next up, we have Ewing. This card is another card that really helps push this deck in terms of consistency. This is one of the best Hera special targets. The 3/3 side is great. The consistency of having 4 damage sides, the special that can give your character 6 shields in a ramping matchup, or simply deal like 4 to 8 damage against different decks if you're trying to push for the aggro game. It's simply amazing, and is a card that I would highly recommend that you put in this deck. Following up the rear, we have the T47 Airspeeder. This card isn't really flashy, but has a lot of good uses, and is simply really solid. Like 2 for a 2/2 ship is great. The special comes into play more than you would think. Oftentimes you're running low on rerolls in this deck, or you'll have a Hera special sitting out there and a T47 Airspeeder special, and you'll have nothing to throw with Hera. This really fixes that, and overall that 2 side is great as far as supporting damage. Let's kind of move these up and out of the way and take a look at some of the optional cards that can close out the set. So let's take a look at Falcon and Black One. These 2 cards are fantastic for pushing single target damage, and some of the best in the game at it. Personally, I'm running these because they combo so well with Recycle, and really just getting use out of them and then recycling them for a net of 4 resources, or 3 in the case of Black One, is really, really good. They're great ships. Another card that makes it out here is Ghost. Ghost has some solid sides. It's not quite as aggressively focused as Black One, but if you're looking to ramp early, you can definitely make use of the 2 resource side. And the special is fairly flexible. It does have the 3 damage sides. Overall, it's fairly solid. Nothing super special, but it's definitely a decent card. A card that I didn't talk about in the ramp section, and one that I personally haven't included in my deck, is Quad Jumper. Well, I think this card is solid. It simply doesn't do quite as much as a similar card would, like Recycle. Its idea is to accelerate your ramp plan. It's supposed to work well with Hera, and it does do that in early turns. But the downside is you need a ship to work with, which is a downside. And in the later stages of the game, you really can't use it or gain much effectiveness from it. Whereas in the later stages of the game, a Recycle, for instance, you'd be able to discard one of your ships that you've already used and just gain the resource cost. And the amount of resources you gain from that play really does give you a ton of options, which is super key in this game. As far as like total number of ships, I would recommend running 10 total, just to gain access to Recycle, to gain consistency in draws, and to really make good use of Hera's special. So those are some of the key vehicle cards. Let's go take a look at some of the offensive cards that really push hero vehicles ahead of villain vehicles in my mind. The first of these is Reckless Reentry. This is definitely a 2 slot. It's one that I'd been experimenting with, trying to remove it entirely, trying to gain more consistency. It's simply extremely good. It gives you an additional potential Ewing special, additional 4 damage from Falcon. The utility is great. At worst, it often turns into a logistics. It's just a really good card, and it can break the game for your opponent. Next up is Strategic Planning. Similarly good. I've yet to use its ability to exhaust the support, but it's extremely good in this deck, and that readying support is insane value. And finally, in the offensive category, we have Friends in Low Places. This card is interesting, and the reason I'm running Ezra is actually for this card and for Electroshock. It really gives you a heads up on the aggressive iteration of this deck, removing key removal cards, removing offensive cards so your Maz can stay alive for an additional turn. If you check out the recent video that Brian and I posted on this channel, you'll see it actually won me the game in that particular match. It's just a great card. It really does hamper your opponent and give you tools to work with. It's similarly offensive, and that can remove key removal, and that's why I'm slotting it in here. These are the 6 go-to slots for your aggressive format. I'm going to talk about a couple other cards you could slot in here. One that I would definitely consider, and I'm playing around with, one of is Partnership. This really helps in the end game of this particular deck. Just giving you that activation into a potential insane roll is great. It's similar to Friends in Low Places, but it does have that clutch moment in the final moments of the match where you're like, all right, I can go to the next round, I can draw my partnership, and I can just roll out and have a 50% chance of taking this game. It's definitely excellent for that. It's also good into mill. It's a really solid card and one that I am definitely looking to find a place in this deck, and I think you should too. So let's put this one off to the side over here. Another card that's kind of cheeky, but not one that you would typically play super often, is Endurance. This kind of harbors in, or like hones in on strategic planning and reckless re-entry. It's somewhat similar in scope, so if you really wanted to push just getting as many activations as possible, I could definitely see running this. If you're playing the Rookie Pilot version, I could also see using this just for another card that operates similarly to Friends in Low Places. Yeah, it's an interesting card, one that hasn't made my slot, but it's definitely really solid and an interesting inclusion. Alright, so with that said, let's take a look at some of the removal options you could have in this deck. And let's kind of slot in on over. Let's break out removal. So first off, the no-brainer, Pin Down. This card is a 2 of, for sure. It's just a great card. Removing 1 die with basically no spot condition in this deck is amazing. Sometimes it'll hit you in early rounds, but it's uncommon. You often don't want to play it early either. Flank is the second go-to. This could go away in a 4-wide meta, but even then it's really strong. Currently there's quite a few 2 and 3 character lists, and it's definitely good against those. Lothcat and Mouse is a premier removal card, just for low quality dice, or like roll out that Ezra, or like you have a Maz die chilling out there by itself. It's definitely a great card in and of itself, and one that I would recommend. And finally we have Electroshock. This is the second reason to include Ezra, as I spoke about earlier. I found that this deck has trouble with specials, Force Throw, Mind Probe, just a few other specials that are out there that really mess with what this deck wants to do. Even just removing like shields or the focus on a Kanan die. This really gives you a lot of flexibility in removal that some other cards weren't giving, and it's personally one that I would highly recommend. I'm just going to push these up here and give you some additional options for removal that you can take, and yeah, move these over. So first off, we have Negotiate. Negotiate is just a really solid card in certain metas. Whenever there's low dice count, it's a really high value play. It's definitely an option in this deck, and it's one that I would highly consider in the Rookie Pilot variant. The second is Honor Guard. This one is great against running interference. If you're running into a lot of speed in Ezra, it's definitely a valid option. It also can help conserve hand size, which for this deck is extremely important as rerolls are very relevant. The one downside is it takes an additional action to play. It can target specials and focus, say for instance on a Kanan or similar other dice. It's hard to block an all-in play or other type interaction, which is why it does suffer, but it also has no limit to the value of the die, which can be very key against high damage matchups. Sound the Alarm is a card that can really go in any deck right now. It's extremely quality and just really helps with, hey, reroll all your dice that are showing damage. So definitely worth considering. It's one that I'm considering as well. And finally, Double Cross. This is kind of a cheeky interaction. It's one that might not often go off for you, but when it does go off, it feels really satisfying. It's another reason to run 2 yellow characters if you're interested in including it. And overall, it's been a ton of fun. So yeah, these are kind of the general differences, or the key cards rather, I would say, that I've been running in this deck. So here are a few optional things that you can do. Let's see, let's break this over here. So up here you have your all of your ramp cost. This is the stuff you're ramping into. Typically about 10 ships would be valid. Here you have your offensive upgrades, or like rather events that really help you push what you want to do with this deck. And over here you have the removal suite, which has a lot of different options. Yeah. So basically, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like button down below. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed playing this deck as much as I have. It's been a ton of fun, and I'm happy to share it with you guys. Until next time, this is Andrew Rothermel. Peace out, guys.